Maybe we should tell him to stop spending money.
We're good? All right, we're going to get started. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. We are going to start tonight with a life-saving award, and Chief Ventura, you're up.
Thank you. Full house, I love it for this. Lieutenant Toad's going to actually describe the call that you're going to see some awards for. But I just wanted to say, you know, we get a lot of great letters and stuff from you folks in the community about little things that we might do for you. But it's a great honor to be recognized by your peers or even your supervisor. And tonight we have a couple of folks, both from fire and police, that are going to get a small life-saving award. May seem like a small ceremony, but it's a big deal. You know, these guys and men and women, they work very hard at what they do, and they actually do put their lives on the line every day. So it's nice for them to be recognized by their own peers. So
Thank you. Hey everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Justin. I'm a lieutenant here. And I want to recognize our very own Officer Kevin Nealon, who's over there in the back. Quick stat for you. They say the average person experiences like 5 to 10 traumatic events during the course of their life, but the police officer experiences about 200 to 400 of those in a 25-year career. And this isn't any different, this particular call for service, but the outcome of it makes it different. So back on January 14th, Officer Nealon, or Kevin, responded with fire and EMS to a medical aid call. Upon his arrival, he saw he was flagged down, and the original call was for a man who fell off a ladder and hit his head. When he arrived, he saw a bystander performing CPR and a man that was obviously not conscious and not breathing. Officer Nealon confirmed there was no pulse and that he was not breathing. He retrieved his AED, and I would also like to make a side note that our AEDs were donated by the Exterior Alliance Club. So, very valuable tool, thank you to them. But he retrieved his AED, he put it on, and it did shock advised, and he was able to deliver that shock, continue CPR, ultimately until our friends at the Brentwood Fire Department got there, continued life-saving care in the back of the ambulance, and ultimately that gentleman walked out of the hospital 2 days later. So,
Woo! So we partner very well with our friends at the fire department, and you know we work very well together. It's truly a great partnership that we have. So I did want to invite Alyssa and her staff here as well to recognize her members, because you know Kevin did a great job, but we truly can't do it without them as well.
And vice versa. And for those that don't know me, my name's Alyssa. I'm the EMS captain, and we appreciate our police so much. A lot of times they are there before we get there. And Kevin had started CPR and delivered that shock before we even got there. And the chances of surviving a out-of-hospital cardiac arrest are less than 90 or less than 10%. And I think most people may have like 3 or 4 in their career where someone actually walks out of the hospital after they suffer cardiac arrest. So I'd like to recognize our 3 members as well for their work.
So without further ado, Kevin, come on up. So I'm going to present Kevin with not only his life-saving pin, but a certificate as well that says to recognize your heroic efforts on January 14, 2024 during a medical aid call in Brentwood, New Hampshire. During your quick actions, effective CPR and AED use, a life was saved.
Woo!
there we go. Look at you. Thank you.
You want to get your stuff?
Yeah, sure. So the first one I'd like to call up is Grant Quinn.
Kevin,
Come on up,
we need
Grant.
another picture.
And the next gentleman is Trevor Whitby. And last but not least, Charles Fitzgerald.
Picture of them.
Take a group. Yeah,
Do
group.
you want a big group photo with him?
you so much.
Nice work,
Super
guys.
job.
You guys want to just hold it? Does that mean here?
Thank you. It's a good way to start a meeting,
Absolutely.
right? I like it.
Yeah.
Let folks filter out.
Whole family out here.
Thank you. And Chief, we appreciate you letting us be part of these celebrations. It's really
love it.
nice,
We love
nice to highlight this for the community. Thank you so much. All right. We want to review signing payroll accounts payable. For the period ending 2/3/24, we had payroll in the amount of $36,905.65. We had accounts payable in the amount of $67,447.54. We did have regularly scheduled ACH payments to Swayze of $232,200 and the co-op of $648,932. Everything match up, Paul?
Can we do this one? Oh, we had a small change.
On my end, not yours.
Okay.
But we got it covered.
Like it. Do we know, oh, we do have John.
We do have John.
Let's take a vote to allow John to participate remotely. Favor? Aye? Remote.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry. Unless you're welcome to, you're free to, thank you. Thank you. Next, we will review and approve the consent agenda, and just for anybody who has our pre-agenda, there is a little banded agenda. So this week's consent agenda, we have public minutes from 1:30, non-public minutes from 1:30, which are the rec manifest, building permits, the treasurer's report, and what we also have in here is appointment slips. To continue fire chief, for Wayne Robinson as road, conservation alternates that we voted on last week, Marku and all in. I will take a motion for that.
Moved.
Actually, I think we're supposed to.
Yeah.
John? Paul? And I'm an aye. So we will approve the consent agenda. We will now open up for public comment. Always, any public as well comes to the topic of. We do ask so that here can pick either sit at the stand or to give you street address. Interested in making. All right. Seeing none. You're on the agenda, Deb. Yep. Yep. So seeing none, we will close public comment at 6:09 and move on to discussion action items. The first was our life-saving award, which we have already done. Next is we would like to give to the esteemed Dick, who would like to address the public. Come on up. Do you want to pick or?
No, I'd like to stand where I can see everybody.
Okay.
Can this pick up?
Yeah, maybe switch it towards you a little.
Okay,
Great.
thank you. I know many of you. Some of you I don't know. And you'll get to know me a little better through what I need to share with you tonight. Typically, when I'm speaking publicly to a group, I like to internalize it ahead of time so that I don't use notes. Not tonight. Not tonight. I'm going to read what I have spent quite a bit of time writing because I really want to be very clear about what I'm sharing with you. I'm Dick Chamberlain, and my family and I moved to Crawley Falls Road in 1971. In 1979, 8 years later, I ran unopposed for the position of town moderator and won, and I have continued to run unopposed every 2 years for the past 45 years. You might think about that stretch of 45 years this way. In 1979, when I first became town moderator, my son Ian was 15. Today the kid is 60. Today the kid is 60. The role of town moderator simply is first to be absolutely neutral in all things. I have never put political signs in my front yard. I've never written political notes to the media. And only 2 or 3 times at town meeting did I leave the podium, turned it over to Doug or whomever was the assistant moderator, and spoke at the mic. One of those times was when we had said yes to somebody from Seabrook who wanted to speak, and then we found out that he was speaking about the possibility of dumping nuclear waste in Brentwood. That didn't go through, by the way. The primary work of the town moderator, working closely with town clerk Daphne, is to create and chair candidates night, which is coming up on February 15th, and we have 25 people vying for town and school office. Nobody this year from Brentwood for the co-op, but we'll have a full house on Thursday, February 15th. The role of the town moderator is to create and chair candidates night, to supervise all elections, and we have 4 of them this year, and to moderate town meeting. I'm telling you all this because last Friday at 5 p.m., when the sign up for town offices was concluded, I had intentionally whoa, that stopped me cold. I had intentionally not put my name on the ballot for town moderator for the next 2 years. Here is why. A year ago, I started to feel that Brentwood needed a much younger town moderator who could help carry Brentwood into the future for hopefully many years. The person needed to be consistently, enormously neutral. They could not be a public advocate for any political party. They could not have any axe to grind. They needed to be able to actually listen to what others were saying. They had to resist being dragged into whatever. I asked 6 or 8 different Brentwood folk representing the Selectboard and other town departments, inviting 3 of them to lunch at my home to give me their suggestions. And everyone suggested the same person, and that was Melissa Hamlin. Melissa has been on our budget committee for a number of years. Professionally, Melissa is a litigating attorney for 20 years with the same firm in Concord, is currently chair of the firm's executive committee, and is known to have the ability to be absolutely neutral when necessary. I appointed Melissa as Brentwood's assistant moderator for the past year, and she has easily filled in many election roles. And Melissa got her first baptism by fire at last year's town meeting when dehydration got the best of me, and our fire chief, Joe, felt it best for me to go by ambulance to the Exeter Hospital, and suddenly Melissa took over around warrant article 14 and continued until the conclusion. I think it was warrant article 21. I will conclude by saying the following. Since Melissa is now the only person running for town moderator on the ballot, I don't have to be neutral, and I can say that she has my vote. Okay, just to let you know that. Now, my term as town moderator concludes in March, with supervision of the town school election, and then moderating our town meeting. A few concluding thoughts. Let me make sure the chief is here. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, chief. We Brentwood citizens, and I as town moderator, have been enormously helped by our police department. And I have been especially thankful to have dealt with election security details with past chiefs of police, Wayne, Ellen, Dan, and now John. My friend, my very good friend, Town Clerk Daphne, could not be more knowledgeable about elections. Many of us in Brentwood know that. And the staff at our New Hampshire Secretary of State's office really knows that. We are fortunate to have at one end of our town office, Joyce and Heather as Daphne's staff, and at the other end of the building, Karen as town administrator. Last paragraph. Friends, I have increasingly loved serving the people of Brentwood in the position of town moderator for these past 45 years. And I believe that we are enormously fortunate to have Melissa as our future town moderator. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
There's not many standing ovations that occur in this room, Dick. I hope you know, that's pretty special. All right, thank you so much for those nice comments. Great. And next we have Becky Dunham coming up to talk to us about regional association recommendations.
That's a very difficult act.
It is kind of a hard act to follow, sorry about
Yes,
that.
and I'm not going to expect.
Probably won't be a
standing
standing
Yes,
ovation
okay.
for you, but, you know, we are giving charitable funds out, so that's a good
We are, that is a good thing. So you all have a copy of the report from our deliberations in February. I mentioned a few unique things about this year. I don't want to read it verbatim here, you have it in front of you, but each year we have a different situation. One year everything was late, so we had to make that choice. We were very conscious of COVID. Another year, so many organizations were flush with extra funds because of federal support. And this year it seemed to be, I don't know if it was the time of year or if people were exceptionally busy, staffing issue, but 4 of the applicants, I had to make a call to follow up. Either the copy of the application that was sent was a very poor copy, so I asked for a fresh copy that didn't run off the side of the page. Our new applicant forgot to put the ask amount in, what they wanted. Someone else was missing a couple of attachments, so I wanted to be sure that I treated everyone equally. If I had to call one, I had to call anyone who had an issue. So that's what I did. We have 2 changes that we face this year, this budget year, making decisions for '24. The Regional Association funding line will now be under welfare in the town budget. It makes more sense to have that together in the documentation. And the second was coming before you in the spring to ask for an increase of $500. We did not know what the applications would total. This was purely, we thought maybe without all the CARES Act and other funds, we might be under more pressure to dispense more money. We had 7 applications, 6 were repeat applications from previous years, and we had 1 new applicant, a new organization we had never funded before. There were some minor changes on some of the budget surpluses. I will read this particular thing verbatim. The requests from the 6 previous recipients were for the same amounts as in previous years, no changes, no increases. There were minor budget surpluses for a couple of charities, but nothing significant. And the number of Brentwood residents receiving services was stable for all agencies. It ranges 1 or 2 each way in the total number, but it was very stable. The only really significant increase was in the amount of money that Southern New Hampshire Services dispensed to Brentwood residents. It was twice what they gave the year before. But they have more resources now from the federal government. Their budget is almost double what it was before, so they can easily accommodate that. So after we met on the 8th, reviewed the materials, I always bring with me the full application package should there be any questions. I provide a summary of the material so we don't have to go back and forth through 6 or 7 pages each time. So we were recommending that all 7 applicants receive funding this year as for a total of $17,357. And the amounts are as follows: with Austin 17, $3,000, Community Children's Fund, $1,000, Rockingham Meals on Wheels, $2,100, Southern New Hampshire Services, $5,707, St. Vincent de Paul, which is our new applicant, $1,500, Task, $750, and Waypoint, $3,300, and that's the former Richmond and Farland. They're folded into that. So the total is $17,357. Are there any questions about the amounts or so far?
Can I just, okay.
Becky, did we not fully fund anyone's request? I
Yes.
just wanted to know, like, where.
Yes, we did not. For Austin 17 House, they asked the same amount as they did last year, and that was one application where we felt they could have been more forthcoming in details and more helpful. It was also that their application, I picked up all the applications on October 30, then came back 2 days, and they're all date stamped. Came back 2 days later, and there was one from Austin 17 House, but it wasn't date stamped. So there was a little question there, I don't know. So as we have done in the past, if there's one question about timing, we give a little bit of leeway in there. It was a day, so we felt that was appropriate. So we felt they could have been more forthcoming. And I've had a couple of conversations with the executive director about ways that if you're going to apply next year, you have to do this. So we try to encourage them to be better organized for that. But we felt what they do in the town for teenagers and other organizations, they provide a good service. And for the other organization was St. Vincent de Paul. When I called them, because their ask line was vacant, was blank, she said, oh, we were thinking of 2,500. So it wasn't as if she had said, yes, we need 2,500. And when I compared the number of residences that are assisted in Exeter by St. Vincent de Paul, it's like 1,387 households. They helped 35 households in Brentwood. So we felt the difference in the volume of residents assisted in each town gave us a little bit of time to use more discretion in the amount that we handed out. And we discussed this. We went through every application, did not decide on Austin and St. Vincent de Paul, went back and revisited them after we had decided on the 6 regular applicants whose ask amounts were the same. So we went back and forth on that. It was a longer meeting than usual.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So, anything else on?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm familiar with all of these charities, but Southern New Hampshire, can you remind me specifically
Yes.
what they provide?
Yes, that used to be Rockingham County Services.
Okay,
And they provide fuel assistance, electric assistance, rental,
Gotcha.
food, daycare,
kind of
Head
general
Start.
charitable assistance?
General charity,
Okay.
yes. And Brentwood is serviced out of the Raymond Center. So they're the local division that helps Brentwood residents.
Okay, thanks.
They're
Okay.
generally our first go-to for welfare.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
and they gave out $142,000 this year in certain
Wow.
value.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
Significant.
Wonderful.
And rent subsidies and things like that.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
great.
They do. And so does St. Vincent de Paul. They do a lot with rental as well as the food. So in addition to the funding recommendations, we discussed changes to the application packet, and Karen and I have talked about this. We know with the new website, every department and commission is going to have a unique image, a unique similar image. So we're going to work with them. I've already talked to Steph about doing this. After the launch of the new website settles down, we'll go back and go through the application packet to pick up the image that will represent Brentwood. Maybe minor changes in the wording. I've looked at some other organizations. They're all pretty similar, but I just want to smooth it out and make it easier for organizations to fill out the material. So that'll probably happen in April. I think things will settle down after town meeting, so maybe April or May we'll do that. So I believe that we've fulfilled our mission for the last 5 years. It has been a pleasure to work with the people on the committee and to be able to do this for the town. I want to thank them for all that they do. They give time, their expertise, and opinions, and I think we provide a good service. We provide equitable value to every organization. We treat them equally, and we do a good job for Brentwood. And Brentwood's a very charitable town. When you think of other things that go on in town, whether it's scholarships or Peach Project, it's a very charitable town, so, as it should be.
Any board members have other questions or queries for Becky?
What was the Austin 17 request?
As it was last year, it was 5,000. So with that discussion and a little uncertainty about the materials that they sent, we wanted them to step back and really think about next year.
I'll take a motion to approve these 7 recipients for a total of $17,357.
Moved. Second.
We'll take a roll call vote. Andy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we are all set to fund these 7 groups, and thank you and your board for your hard work.
Thank you. Stand up, stand up.
Yeah, thank you to all board members present. All right, next on our discussion action items, we have Deb Cinnamon Whalen and the Pickpocket Road petition. Come on up. This is a citizen's petition that had 25 legal Brentwood voters, so will appear on the town warrant at town meeting.
Right. So I know a lot of you don't live on Pickpocket. Many people who have signed the petition have sent emails and letters in about it. But we've had, over the years, tried so many things to try to slow the traffic down. We've had petitions to stop waste management that were signed by our neighborhood. We've had the police put those digital signs to remind you that you're speeding. We got a sign for, 25 mile an hour speed limit on a certain area, and to no avail. Nothing has stopped. The traffic is getting worse, faster, and volumes of heavy trucks, like tractor trailers and big, heavy construction trucks. So you might not even feel safe walking your dog on the road anymore. They whip by, and some of the speeders are literally, if you go like that, slow down, they'll flip you off, give you the bird, and step on it. And it's got to the point where the more neighbors we talked to, the more people really were frustrated and cared about this issue. And the other thing that we've noticed is from all the heavy traffic on the road, like the big trucks and stuff, it's actually breaking the pavement down. If you take a walk and look at it, you wouldn't believe all the cracks and chunks just coming off the road, because it's not designed for tractor trailers and heavy construction trucks. And I'm sure you're asking yourself, well, it doesn't seem that busy when we've gone down that road, but now that the high school is down on off Pine Road where they moved it, people just whip down that road. 7 to 7:30, it's unbelievable how fast these people drive. And then today I was trying to walk my dog on the road at 10 of 3. There were just so many cars going by so fast. I just couldn't believe it. I said, well, this isn't even pleasurable. And I just went back to the house. I couldn't even walk my dog out there. So I've noticed that in a few neighborhoods, people they've put down these speed tables. They're not very expensive, as I've found out, to install, and they would actually preserve the road. So we're going to spend all this money to pave it. I don't know if it's every 10 years or what the slate is on Pickpocket for that, but it's certainly getting broken down more quickly because it isn't being even paid for that kind of traffic to begin with. And I also have videotape, if anybody wants to see it, the waste management truck going down Pickpocket, over Cross Road, down 111 to go to the transfer station. And, for a little while, we did actually stop those trucks with a petition years ago. And the police must have called Waste Management or something and said, hey, but they did stop for a while. And I think what it is, the frustration about the heavy trucks, Pine Road's an industrial zone. They're coming off 111, or, it's a shortcut between 111 and Pine Road. I mean, it's obvious. So, you know, and I think part of the problem is, you know, now people have GPSs. These drivers, they don't look at the sign and go, oh, this is no through trucks. Oh, this is a designated scenic road. None of that matters because they get in the truck, they put in their address, and it's sending them down Pickpocket Road. And so, as much as everybody in town, you know, that fired the police department and, you know, Wayne by giving us new signage, you know, blind driveways, speed limit change, nothing has helped. It's only getting worse. And so that's why we decided to do this. And the speed tables, they're very effective. I spoke to Wayne about it, and he said his speed bumps would be a problem plowing, but a speed table is not. They've just installed them on Banfield Road up in Portsmouth. There's some neighborhoods in Durham that have them now because they work. I got the idea for the speed tables when I was visiting my daughter down in DC. All the neighborhoods have them and nobody can go fast, you know, between the, so that's the basic of it. And there are some other people from our street who are here wanted to say something about it. And I guess some of you have gotten emails from other people that couldn't make it tonight. I know Eliza, I think she's lived there the
Yeah.
longest of all
Yeah,
of
I
us,
received an email.
23 years. And so I thought her letter is really good because it explains the problem over the years, how exponentially the traffic has changed and the rush hours and all of it. All right, well, thanks. I think I kind of touched on
Yeah,
what
we
we're
just got an email
asking for and why.
from Eliza Stewart McDougall at 178 Pickpocket and her husband David. Basically, I think echoing all of the points that you just made, Deb.
Yeah.
Especially that there was an electronic speed sign in use for a while that unfortunately did not seem to make a big difference.
So I think that you know, speed tables could ultimately solve the problem and also save the town money in the long run. They might be, like, I have a friend that investigated speed tables up in Hooksett where he had to put them in, and they were $1,500 each, which I thought, wow, I thought they'd be at least $3,000. But he actually got a quote for $1,500 in a neighborhood that he is a project manager at. So, I mean, they might cost us more on a state road or whatever, but certainly in the long run, they pay for themselves.
Anyone else interested in coming up to speak? Hi there, if you could just give your name and address.
My name is Linda Saunders. I live at 167 Pickpocket Road, which is down the street from Deb, and I'm probably one of the newer residents. We moved there 8 years ago. And I like to walk my dog on the street since we've moved there. I make sure I'm wearing brightly colored clothes to be seen, because a lot of the traffic has it's gotten so crazy. I mean, to illuminate like how crazy it actually has gotten, I kid you not, this is unbelievable. In the last week alone, I was walking by Rowell Road, where Rowell Road comes into Pickpocket, and somebody's coming down Rowell Road, and somebody's coming up Pickpocket, and they were like within like a second of a collision, twice in 1 week. I've gotten past several times, coming down between Middle Road and Rowell Road, that whole section. Trying to go the speed limit, people are zooming past, and you know, they're like, why are you going so slow? And people just seem, I don't know, it's not just Pickpocket Road, but it seems to me a lot of people are just more irate, impatient, and distracted, and really not allowing enough time to properly process visually the situation. Being in that section, we've had car accidents, you know, trees hit on our section of the road, because we're right down kind of by this hill where you can't, I mean, part of the problem is there are a lot of blind curves. I don't know if any of you have been on Pickpocket Road, but it's up and down, a lot of blind curves, and you really have to be careful. So the times that I've actually seen these two almost collisions were in the middle of the day. Very little traffic. Probably, I think it was about 2 o'clock. So I'm a very concerned resident. I don't think people are paying attention to the signage. For everybody's safety, it would be good to have those speed tables implemented. And, I mean, another consideration too, we have a 55 and over community, right, on one section of the road that's relatively new, and a lot of those people like to walk. And on the other end, although it's Exeter, we have all of Riverwoods, and there are a lot of those residents out walking too. So I think we should feel like we can walk in our neighborhood, and I just think this would make a big difference.
Thanks for comments. Anyone else interested in commenting? Uh-oh, he's taking off his jacket.
Let me roll up my sleeves. My name is Garen Daly. I'm here with my wife's not here. She's late for work, which is why I was late. Was waiting for her, so I apologize for that. I live at 162 Pickpocket, and I'm probably newer people. We moved here in 2020. We live right on the corner of Rowell Road and Pickpocket Road. For those of you who may remember, that's where Linda and Eric Wilkins used to live. We bought the house from them. I come from the city. I come from Boston. When I see heavily densely populated areas, there are lots of speed tables there, and it really slows it down and makes it easier for the residents of a residential area to be able to live in peace. Pickpocket is a cut road. It's a cut-through road, and right now, if you take a look at it and just watch it, you've got bicyclists on it, you've got people with horses on it, you've got families on it, and I'm really surprised there, as Linda was saying, there haven't been more accidents on there. So I think that, the town should be proactive and use this, if this is new for them, to use it as a test ground to how to be able to slow down traffic in residential areas. And it works. I've seen it in Somerville, Mass, which is where where my business is based out of. But it works, and I think it's inexpensive. Why not?
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else interested in speaking? I don't know if we have anybody from the town. Chief, if you wanted to comment, come on up.
I'll be the unpopular guy here. Sorry, folks. First of all, I sympathize. I really do. However, there's a couple of things. Speed tables do work in Durham. They do work in Somerville, and they do work on the small streets in Portsmouth. They don't work in Brentwood. They won't.
Never had them, how can you say that?
Because I know they won't. They won't work on, just
Why would you say that if
hear
you
me out.
don't know?
Because the number of speed tables you would need on the, how many miles is Pickpocket? 4.5 maybe?
Well,
The
we're
number
talking
of them,
about the
but
Exeter.
just hear me out. I have a little experience with this. Just hear me out. The number of speed tables you would need to place on that road to control speeds would be cost prohibitive. And then, if we start with Pickpocket, and then we want to go to other roads around the town, before you know it, this entire town is nothing but speed tables. And first responders can't get where they need to go. Plow routes will take in excess of double the time. You can't just go over these at normal speed. You've got to slow down at each table. Right, but that's great if you're in a congested area. Pickpocket Road is not a congested area, right? It's a long, windy road, much like we have everywhere in New Hampshire, right? Excuse me. So if I were to guess what the effective number of speed tables on Pickpocket Road would be, it would be almost 20 of them to slow people down on that road. Right?
I disagree with
I
that.
disagree, and I even think if you even had 3 or 5 on the Brentwood stretch, it would certainly, the truck drivers would get hit real quick, like, oh, that's not a good way to
Can I
go
just make a
anymore.
comment as the chair here?
And when,
This, Deb,
yes.
this is not necessarily the audience to have this back and forth. This should really occur at town meeting, right? I mean, I think, I'm happy to have people kind of briefly say their piece here, but it's the voters, it's the legislative body of the town that will decide this. So I think if everyone just kind of says their piece, we can leave the back and forth for town meeting, where I'm sure people are gonna kind of duke this out and say their opinions. But tonight, this board will not be voting on this warrant because there is no monetary appropriation. So we will take no stance on this. So having this on the agenda is sort of a courtesy to let people say their piece on video for the public. So I think if we can limit the back and forth, let everybody say their piece, and then save up all your arguments and your data for town meeting, that's the group that you need to convince for voting. Does that make sense? Okay, thanks. Chief, continue your comments?
No, I just, I don't want people to be upset at town meeting when I can't support them. They wouldn't support the function of the police and they wouldn't support the function of fire. Every second counts when we respond, okay? And I don't wanna have to tell the family at the other end of Pickpocket that it took us an extra 1 minute to get there and their loved one died because we had to go over speed tables. Now, we have a lot of anecdotal stories about if somebody almost got hit, or people ride bikes, or people do horses. We do that everywhere in New Hampshire. And I don't think it's by a stroke of luck or God that we don't have more accidents. I actually think people do watch out for each other. They might not be the happiest of people these days, but nobody drives down the road. That old joke is, how many points is that one, how many points? Nobody drives down the road like that. Okay, we actually do watch out for our neighbors. When we see a horse, we don't go whizzing by it. Truckers are not the evil, right? They aren't, right? Some of them have a necessary job on that road, right? And others, we try to enforce that as much as humanly possible, right? But we have 17 square miles of Brentwood to patrol, right? So we do as much as we can. We put those signs on the roads. We stop cars. We do saturate patrols. We do the best that we can with the personnel that we have. But sometimes ideas are just not the right ideas for the right place. That's just my opinion here. You may convince the town otherwise, and we'll have to drive over speed tables on Pickpocket. I'm just saying, I can't support, the 100%. Now, what I will do for town meeting, or for anybody that cares, I will pull any accidents, pedestrian vehicle or otherwise, and supply them to folks if they need those numbers for town meeting. I will pull all the speed complaints that we've had from residents so that we can see how many times the police have been called about speeders or these accidents or non-accidents or what, so that you folks have information also. This isn't, I don't want to hide anything from anybody, but I want you to have the numbers that, that some of you have indicated that might be there. You should have those, right? And I'll be the first one to say that the police and even fire and Wayne and highway will be the first to work with you folks as best as we can with the tools that we have to control some of these problems. We really do.
Wayne was supportive of the idea.
Sure, and that's great. From Wayne's perspective, if he's supportive of it, that's wonderful.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, I didn't want you to run away. I haven't formulated my question, but,
No worries.
While Russ is formulating, do you have any data from the sign of the speeds?
From no, we don't have any data. We have no data.
All the signage is there, there's 25 miles an hour, this end is 30 going towards Exeter, down to Michael Bennett.
Right, we haven't tracked any speeds, is what you're asking.
Yeah, the speed signs have,
Do they record it?
yes.
They do, yeah. We don't have a recording speed sign, but
You can.
So the one we have doesn't record.
I'm sorry?
The one we have doesn't record now.
No, I'm actually gonna apply through that grant. They will only supply equipment like speed signs if it tracks data, so they're really pushing those.
so, I do think overall, there is an issue with speeding in town. I don't spend a lot of time on Pickpocket, but I've driven it enough I can only imagine what people do on that road, because it is a cut-through road. I mean, my road's a dead end, and I've had to,
It's tough.
I've had to
It's
address
tough.
it myself
Sure.
with neighbors. And Middle Road, I mean, and the size of the trucks that come barreling down Middle Road, South Road. So I do think it's an issue, and I guess, maybe speed tables, like you said, maybe that is the answer for Pickpocket Road. And like you said, if it was, maybe it grows from there. But if that's not the case, and I know you and I have spoken about Deer Hill,
Yeah, sure.
and some friends that I have on the corner of Deer Hill who deal with people coming whipping on
Sure.
onto Deer Hill, and we had within the last year we had a teenager go flying right, trying to take a left on Deer Hill, go flying right into the field. So I guess I don't know if you have experience in the past, if select boards have had conversations with our police department about perhaps being a little more aggressive with controlling speeding, or whether that's something that really just rests with the chief. You know, I don't know how, I really don't know. You know, is that something that if we put a point of emphasis on in terms of perhaps increasing the, you know, patrolling of that kind of thing?
Well, any message or education or warning that you give is always helpful. It never would hinder to get an official notice from the town of select, you know, from the town or the board of selectmen about, you know, the increase in the number of vehicle speeds in town, and they've asked the police assistance in cracking that.
Yeah.
All of that stuff works.
Yeah.
It's all about warning and education.
Sure.
That's how we change driving behavior, when we give warnings, when we stop people and what have you. So that certainly can't hurt.
I've appreciated that you've always been open to conversations like that,
Sure.
particularly in the case of Deer Hill Road,
Mhm.
like I said, you know, and monitoring people coming off of Middle Road onto there. It's definitely, I can't speak obviously for the rest of you, but it is something that bothers me a lot in this town, just certain roads that people really just don't seem to care.
And it's tough, it's a challenge. I mean, you know, there's only, you know, there's only 10 of us. And we only work, you know, as much as we can. So it is hard to get to every road when we can. And it might seem like your particular road is always the one where the speeding cars are. But they are everywhere, and we do the best we can with what we've got. And, you know, we're always open to ideas. I'm not saying we're not open to new and exciting ideas, but just the physical layout of that in Brentwood, I think would be a bit of a problem, but we may find out.
I was thinking about it tonight, actually, when I came through past the prison, and I was driving 20 miles an hour, and the sign was telling me that I was.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the solution. We'll
There you
just-
go.
all right.
So, all right, thanks, folks, appreciate it.
Any other commenters? Jeff, did you want to comment?
No, Wayne's looking into the speed tables and stuff, so.
Are we
Okay.
ready for town meeting?
Yep, I'm sure Wayne might have some comments at town meeting that he can
Yeah.
provide. Okay. Well, I'm sure there'll be a robust discussion, so anyone interested who's watching this video, come to town meeting, say your piece. Right? Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Next, we have a BRC Safer Access Road and encumbrance accounting, which I think is the issue that Letty had brought up, correct?
Yes.
So to summarize the issue here, the issue was that a safety issue was brought forward by the rec to see if we had any excess funds in our budget for the last season 2023 budget to address the safety issue at the rec with the dirt road that goes between the field and the snack shack that serves as both a two-directional road and a pedestrian walkway and creates some serious safety hazards. And we did decide to encumber funds to fund that road. And because that was a non-budget line item, there were some questions about what is the best way to record that in our budget. Is that sort of a good summary, Karen? Yes? Okay. And Karen, I don't know if you want to address your thoughts on the issue or what you feel our options are.
So the total cost for the road and the approved encumbrance already voted is $94,500. You had also approved a $2,800 encumbrance that Wayne Robinson had requested for a total encumbrance out of highway for $97,300. So after the 2023 budget is closed and all of the expenses are paid, there's $98,260 remaining in Wayne's summer budget. So there's enough money in that one budget to cover those two encumbrances.
Okay. Rather than having to pull out of different line items like we had discussed we could do if we needed to.
Yep.
Okay.
Question?
Paul? Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't there an additional 4,000 from the 94.5 as part of the design?
That was coming out of econ development. So there was $7,000 left in that budget of the general government budget that is allocated separately.
Right, but I thought the thought
That was
was
the surveying, that
And
was
the
the
survey.
surveying part of.
Right.
the-
Yeah, the design survey. The total would be
Yeah, well,
90.
The seven, it's, yeah, only like half of it, right? I don't remember this, I think you said
3 and 4.
4,000. I don't remember. That was for the 4 was for the road, the other part was for, survey work for the entire rec campus, cause that is, we don't have any survey work of that town-owned property.
Right.
On record.
Right. And I think that the issue that had been brought forward by BudCom is that if we were gonna pull funding out of multiple lines, it creates a continuity issue where the next year when BudCom looks at the budget, it looks like we fully spent a budget that we in fact didn't. And so the question was how best to handle unexpected encumbrances at the end of the year. And I think a couple different suggestions came out about putting it in general government budget, or in this case, you're suggesting just putting it in the road construction budget. I think my understanding, and Letty, you can come up and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was just the ask from BudCom was just maximal clarity and kind of continuity from year to year. Do you wanna come up? Yeah. I think that is what the ask was, but you can clarify if the ask was slightly different.
So the ask was from me personally, not as a representative
Oh,
of
okay.
BudCom, but it did come up at BudCom.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Because, yes, so like if we look next year at whatever 7 budgets, it was gonna not be clear. So for clarity and continuity, having the entire thing go in the road construction budget, yes, it will be a big negative. Yes, it will look like that was overspent, but that is also easily explained.
Right. And in fact, it isn't gonna be overspent. It's basically just gonna,
The line item will be overspent, but
Okay.
the bottom line of that budget will not be.
right. But it's obvious because it's all in one place. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows it's the road. It's not gonna get murky in
But
other
even
budgets.
if it was even if doing that overspent
Right.
that one budget,
You know why.
you know why.
Correct.
It's the end of the year. This board knew that the rest of the budget could handle that expense.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
that would be.
And I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think prior select boards had had a relative reluctance to overexpend any particular budget,
Correct.
even if it was for an unusual encumbrance, which I think, I don't know how this board feels, but I feel like the numbers all come out the same at the end. So from an accounting perspective, I don't think it matters. I think this board has been trying to move towards clarity and continuity in our budgeting, so I'm curious if anybody feels strongly about, let's say this comes up again next year, if people feel strongly about how we should handle encumbrances in our budget.
So I will state again, my thought around this. I totally get the logic and rationale for wanting to go that way. My concern, or not concern, I'm making the wrong word choice there, but the thing that still kind of gets me about about doing it that way is I don't think that we would have it's just that if there hadn't been money available, we wouldn't have proposed the project, or we may not have proposed the project, right? If we didn't know that there was a way to pull the funds in from unexpended line items. So basically what I'm saying is it wouldn't it's not like Wayne's budget. Let's say we overexpended Wayne's budget because of this project. That's also not an accurate representation of the budgeting that happened the year prior, because we are doing this project only because we have the ability to do the project. It's not, it is a non-budget item, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I hear what you're saying. I think they're kind of maybe two separate things. One is like in the planning stages, you're not gonna plan for something that you don't have the money for. And the other is just the accounting, housekeeping stage of where you put it for clarity. That, to me, they're like the two sides of the coin, if you see what I'm saying.
But I don't, what I'm saying is I don't think that this project should skew the highway budget planning in the future. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? we wouldn't, that is also has a distortive effect on on how you would do the budgeting.
Just to counter to that, John, I think if it comes out of one line item in one budget, the skewing is less, because you can say, next year we spent $9,000 out of that one line, and you can show that it was a special project, rather than it coming out of 7 different budgets and not knowing. I mean,
I think that's a fair point.
the even cleanest thing would be to have a special projects.
Right.
That you would overspend in one budget and show where that money came from. And then the general government would be overspent by $9,000, but everybody else. But either way, it works because it's a road.
Right.
So it makes sense to have it just in roads.
Do you feel, in this particular case, it's a road, it fits cleanly?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Letty, the special projects, Lydia, what if you had a $1 line item in special projects and you overspent that on an annual basis?
That's fine.
So basically, if you
Well, as far as I know, that's fine, but I'm not DRA.
Right.
Like, I don't know if there's a reason that they don't like that.
I'm just wondering if that solves both problems.
I think it could, if it was either a standalone budget or it was in general government, like Andy said. Do you have any sense of whether, what's allowable?
There's a line item that's called expenditure offset in the general government budget, but I'm not sure in '23 if it was funded with $1 or not.
You wanna check?
It was. Well, if it's the one that wasn't there one that came back to budget committee?
It was, but I wanna say that I don't know if there was any money in it last year. I know we moved 10 into it for '24, but I'm not sure if it was funded.
Yeah. John, you're okay with that idea of keeping it all on one line item as long as it doesn't distort other budgets?
Yeah, I guess my worry was the whole time was like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yep.
And the idea of like, okay, we're trying to solve one problem, but then we're creating another problem on the back end. But if we have this line item that we on purpose overspend.
That might be the cleanest way.
But then how do you know what you actually spent money on?
On both sides.
I guess would be my question about that. Then how would you know what you spent money on?
Depends how many special projects you had.
Right, how do you define a special project?
Right, exactly.
Sorry, I can't hear what you
She's just asking how would we define what projects and what encumbrances would go on that line versus in other budgets?
I think this is an off year that.
Yeah.
This doesn't normally happen, that you spend
A large amount.
a large amount of money on a special project.
Right.
Like, in my long time, we've never done that before. We've never spent an extra $90,000 at the end of the year.
Right.
On a project.
Yes, but I know that, and I don't remember the exact details, but I know that when you were trying to do the new highway building, it was the similar thing where it was like out of this line, out of this line, out of this line. So I think that would have been a similar thing.
The highway building was capital reserve fund and ARPA funds.
I think there was other
I think she's talking about the salt shed.
Might be.
That was a capital reserve
Some of
fund.
that is just a philosophical, are you willing to overexpend, a budget? Which I think there had historically been a reluctance to, but I think I'm hearing in general, like, if it makes it more clear that, we're flexible as a board in terms of that. What did you find on the general government budget?
So the general government budget was not that expenditure offset line was not funded in '23.
Okay.
There was a line item in the government buildings budget that is called prior year encumbrance. But that was also funded with nothing, but if you wanted to lump sum everything into one expense line, I think that's where you would put it.
I think before we create like a lot more headaches than we need, I think for this year, if it's gonna be a single expense in highway, that's very clear that it's for a road, BudCom knows that, we know that, everybody knows that. I think it's probably not a huge issue with this budget, but certainly something that we could look ahead in terms of if we had another big project. Maybe we do like, we set a dollar value. If it's above a certain dollar value, we put it onto this special line. Because we had multiple small encumbrances that all just went into the budget where they belonged, which is
Yes.
appropriate, right? If it's a library encumbrance, you put it in library. If it's, highway, you put it in highway. But this was sort of a unique safety issue that came from the board. And so my impression is because we didn't have to pull it out of all those budgets, what we were worried about, that messiness, is actually not gonna occur.
But you don't have, it's just the bottom line number, like, there's
Right.
no money coming out of any budgets,
Right,
I guess.
it's just where
is-
you assign it.
So even if this made the highway budget negative, it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. As long as everybody understands that the highway really didn't overspend because of plowing and construction and
And if there's
normal
one
business.
line that is roads,
Right.
that would be easy to explain.
Exactly. So it's the problem that I think you were worried about happening is not actually going to happen.
No.
Correct? So maybe we can just leave it like that and take this up in next budget season
Sure.
if it looks like it's gonna happen again.
Sure.
Would that be satisfying?
Yes, but you don't have to just satisfy me.
No, but I mean, I think it's a good point. Like, we want it to be as clear as possible to make the BudCom's job easier, to make the public have better understanding of what we're doing with the taxpayers' money. Paul?
So I thought though the idea was there was money, as I'm understanding this, in roads to do this. So
Yep.
is that what we're intending on doing?
Yes, when we first started the discussion, all of Wayne's bills were not in,
Yeah.
so we weren't sure whether there was enough. So Karen had looked elsewhere, to John's point, to make sure that even if highway couldn't absorb it all, that we could absorb it all in the bottom line budget. So we knew we could, but it ended up working out relatively nicely that once all Wayne's bills came in, we had the money all in this one place, rather than having to rob from a bunch of different places.
And honestly, I think that's how it ought to be. So if that's where you're going with it, then yes, I'm supportive of that.
Slightly off topic, but on topic. I know that there's a plan to switch to a new accounting software that was made closer than 40 years ago. Will it be easier to deal with things? Like, will you have an easier time managing all of this in the
That's
new
the goal.
software? Okay.
That's the hope?
That's the hope,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Our go-to person at BMSI is retiring at the end of February, so I think our move to break up with them will be expedited by her retirement.
Okay. So maybe we'll have a whole different set of conversations next budget season
Sure.
with new software.
Hopefully that'll make it
Okay.
easier to do your
Okay.
budgeting, right?
Great, thank you for bringing that up. I
Thank
think it was a very valid point. All right, the board kind of satisfied that for this year it's okay?
Do we need to move to have that change happen?
I don't think so. Yeah,
You've already
if
voted.
Karen's happy, I'm happy. All right. That brings us to the end of discussion action items. We'll move on to regular business. The first thing I would like to do under regular business is, we did receive in the mail a resignation letter from Officer Joshua Turner. And I would just like to read part of his letter and then have the board make a motion to accept his resignation. So Officer Turner shared that after 19 years with the department, he's made the decision to pursue other opportunities closer to his home in order to spend more time with his family. This was a difficult decision, but I feel it's the right one to make prior to my full return to duties, as he's been out after knee surgery. I would like to thank the department and the town of Brentwood for their unwavering support over the years. After spending half of my life with the town, I will always consider Brentwood my second home. I wish the department continued success, and may they never forget their fallen officer, Stephen Arkell. So a really nice letter, and I would be interested in a motion to accept his resignation.
Moved. Second.
Second.
Roll call, Andy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we wish Officer Turner the best of luck. Pretty impressive that he has spent half of his life with our town, and we are lucky to have had him.
And I would just also like to commend him with all the work that he did on the Stephen Arkell Memorial, along with the road race, the scholarship. He put a lot of his own time and effort into the remembrance.
All right. Karen, why don't we start with you and the warrants that we need to review?
So I received a petition warrant article. The first one is to vote to raise and appropriate a lump sum payment of $17,250 to to provide funding to the Brentwood Newsletter, Inc. for printing, postage, and distribution costs of 11 issues of the Brentwood Newsletter from April 24 to March 25. If approved by the legislative body at town meeting, payment shall be dispersed to the Brentwood Newsletter, Inc. no later than March 29th, 2024. Majority vote required. This does have the 25 signatures, so it will be put forward to town meeting. I forwarded it to Andy so that he could bring it to the budget committee meeting last night, which I believe they have voted not to recommend. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the select board, because this is an appropriation, you will need to make a recommendation on whether you would recommend or not recommend this article.
Okay. And just, I know people may remember all of the discussions that went back and forth over a fairly protracted period of time in 2021, 2022, I think even going back further than that. And just to remind the public that when this, most of this board, with our prior member Bob Montegary, when we had taken the vote to sever our financial relationship with the Brentwood Newsletter, in the, I think it was like in the late fall, early winter of 2022. The reason that was done was on advice of town council, that because the Brentwood Newsletter is a private nonprofit company with their own board, that it really would not be legally appropriate for the town to try to control the publishing content of a private group with a private board. And so we had been in the process of trying to work out either an MOU or a contract with that group, and after advice from council decided to pause those discussions because council had advised us that it was not in the town's best interest to move forward. And Paul, I know you were not on the board at that time. I don't know if you were aware of those discussions that we had sort of at the 11th hour when that vote to not fund the newsletter had occurred. But that just summarizes how that decision was made in, I think it was like November or December of 2022. Okay. I'd invite anyone on the board to express any questions or thoughts about this warrant, because we will need to take a vote. Any thoughts or comments?
Well, I think you laid it out. There's about, I mean, that's one of many reasons, obviously, so. It's all on the record. It's on YouTube. It's
on
in the
Facebook.
minutes.
You can find it.
No, but I mean, the actual discussion
Yes.
of the facts around
Yep.
the issue are recorded. So I don't think there's a whole lot more to say.
Other board member comments or thoughts?
Sure.
Yeah, please.
So I am concerned with the warrant as drafted because it requires disbursement no later than March 29th of 2024, and that component of the article, I think, ends up binding our hands as a select board, that we have to pay for something before the issuance of the product. So that in and of itself gives me cause for concern in terms of recommending this. I guess, and I've said this before as well, when I was running for select board at candidates night about a year ago, that I don't think that the idea of funding a private non-profit publication is something that I can recommend as a fiduciary of the town, and that would be the same whether regardless of the publication. If the publication bled blue, I would not be able to recommend that. Having said that, I understand that this is a recommendation that we make, and that ultimately this will be before the town voters. And I mean, other than what I initially said with regard to this having to bind us by the end of March of 2024. If it had said something like, you know, after the publication of 6 issues or 12 issues, we'd be issued a bill, and the appropriation would be to pay for that bill. I think that would be different. But if the voters decide that this is something that they want, then I am going to have to ultimately listen to that.
Just to clarify, because I know there was a lot of back and forth about that issue when this was previously discussed, and people refer to this as no means no, but yes doesn't mean yes. So in any appropriation article, whether it's the budget, whether it's warrant articles, allows us to appropriate tax dollars from the taxpayers. But because we are the fiduciary agents of the town, it does not obligate us to spend anything. It expresses the desire of the public, as we've discussed and acknowledged, but even this date would be unenforceable on us as the fiduciary agents of the town, because that any spending is up to this board to vote on spending. So just to clarify, because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there about if a vote passes at town meeting that it is binding, and I know you used the word binding as well. But just to clarify that none of these, you did, yeah, you said it binding us to this date or whatever. That
well,
even if this were to pass,
yeah.
it would not bind us to that dollar value or that date or to spend any of these funds. That's a common misunderstanding of our role as fiduciary elected agents in the town.
And right, so, and I agree, so if I use that.
I just wanted to clarify, yep.
Yeah. I also think that ultimately, if this were to pass, then it's really something that will be up to the next select board to decide.
Correct.
But, yeah, as I said, as worded, particularly with that date of March 29th, I understand it's not binding per se, but with that date in there, it gives me cause for concern such that I couldn't recommend it.
Okay. Other comments from anyone? I'll take a motion.
I'm just gonna throw
Yeah.
one more thing out there. We have a new website, a new town website, which took a lot of time and effort, but that was a huge step. We talked about that over the last year and a half, say, about moving forward and improving communication for residents, and that perhaps at some point from that we can have email. I signed up for email updates from the town, easier access to information, and potentially at some point a newsletter that looks like a newsletter from other towns around us, Fremont, for example, but there are others. Other towns do newsletters. The towns do them. They don't have opinion sections. They don't have some of the other nonsense that we've had to deal with in the past. It's just straight information. So maybe that comes along at a certain time, maybe it doesn't. But it's important to remember that the communications committee we stood that up for a reason. And as I've said before, we took a lot of criticism, unfounded criticism, frankly, from people who are devoted to the newsletter, the yellow newsletter that we're talking about here. And I think it's telling. Change is hard, but the change happened. We decided not to carry forward with that. And the idea that a year later, we're gonna spend $17,000 to put that thing out, it doesn't make any sense. And I think any fiscal conservative, anybody who is looking at it from that angle is going to realize that it makes no sense to spend that money, even if you were to ignore everything that happened leading up to that vote, everything that happened in the first couple months of this new board, where hours were spent trying to come to an agreement where we could be comfortable going forward with the town funding that newsletter. And we were pushed away, we were ignored, we were insulted, everything under the sun happened during that time, in order for that group that runs that newsletter to avoid accountability. So, if you haven't gone back and watched those YouTube clips, if you haven't read the minutes, if you haven't read the Seacoast online articles, that's a responsibility that you need to take on before you take an opinion on this issue. Otherwise, you are making a decision in the dark.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Anyone interested in making a motion? The motion would be to recommend or not recommend.
To not recommend.
Second.
Roll call, Andy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we have a 5-0 vote to not recommend. Next warrant?
The other two petitions are not, they do not contain an appropriation.
Okay.
This one is shall the following provisions pertaining to elections be adopted? All voting shall be by paper ballot, and all ballots shall be hand counted only, rather than by use of optical scanning or any other types of programmable electronic counting devices. This shall constitute a return to hand counting ballots and the immediate discontinuance of all electronic voting machines and electronic devices authorized for use in trial by RSA 656:40. Shall this article be passed, it shall be enacted by the town of Brentwood immediately.
And that has confirmed 25
It
voters.
has confirmed 25 signatures,
So that will appear,
and
Are those 25 people volunteering to count?
I think that question is going to be asked at town meeting, because presumably they will. And also, none of these people have attended ballot testing that is required by law to happen before every election.
okay, so that will be up before the town.
The last warrant article that was received is yes means yes. The vote of the legally convened legislative body at the annual Brentwood, New Hampshire town meeting shall be adhered to and faithfully executed by the select board. That also has received 25 signatures.
And just to clarify, this is potentially not legal. Correct.
Correct, because
Correct.
you could have
Yep.
received a petition article with an illegal language.
Right, okay.
Well, and just to follow on that, I mean, I read that just this evening. I'm sorry.
It was just received
Yeah.
today.
If
yes.
I wasn't recognized.
Yes, no,
Sorry.
go
Yeah,
ahead and speak,
okay.
say your piece, please.
Yeah, thank you. So, my understanding is that that's not necessarily even something that we would need to put up for a vote, because it has, as far as I'm concerned, as a lawyer, just speaking objectively, that it's a nullity. It has no legal effect.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything.
So this has
From
come
a
up-
legal standpoint.
This has come up
And
before.
there's case law that specifically provides that that doesn't need to be put on the ballot. I could cite it into the record if need be, but it's just not something that, as a lawyer speaking from a rational basis, that doesn't mean, it means nothing.
Right.
It's
And I
like,
think
it's like
maybe-
air.
Yeah, I think maybe we need to clarify, because I know when I did my initial board training with NHMA, these questions came up. What if a citizens petitions warrant article is asking the board to do something illegal or impossible? Do you have to allow it to go forward for a vote? And my understanding was you do have to allow it, but in consultation with legal counsel about the fact that it is not enforceable. So give an extreme example, if somebody brings a warrant that says something just absolutely illegal, ridiculous, like we're gonna take people's homes and give them to the select board members, right? That something that's just crazy illegal, I think we maybe need to clarify with council, but my understanding was that even an illegal article should be put on the warrant if it is duly, signed by 25 voters. I could be wrong, but I seem to remember, I know we went to the same training initially. Maybe we can clarify that with council if there is an exception to that.
Well, in my opinion would be, this is an advisory article.
Right.
It's not binding, so I think the least risk adverse option would be to put it forward on the warrant and then.
Can we maybe clarify with council, because I think,
Yes.
I thought the requirement was that even a potentially illegal warrant that is duly signed by 25 voters should be put forward, but with, consultation with council about, advising the public that it is not enforceable.
And I
So
don't know
maybe
that
we
I'd
can
say
clarify.
it's illegal, but it's really a nullity. It has, from a lawyer's
Goes
standpoint,
against
it
New
has,
Hampshire law.
it has no legal effect.
Right.
It means nothing.
It's a statement, yeah, it's,
Well,
I'm assuming that's why we're seeing it tonight.
I understand that, but people can put all sorts of statements out on the ballot
Yep.
to vote upon.
Yep,
I mean,
they
it
can.
has to have some legal effect.
It states here, an illegal article might include an appropriation of town funds for a purpose not permitted by law, such as purely charitable donation for which the town receives nothing in return. Opinion of the justices. Yet another kind of illegal warrant article is one where the subject matter was not included on the posted warrant. This would violate the requirement in RSA 39:2 that subject matter of all business to be acted upon at the town meeting shall be distinctly stated in the warrant. In addition, even if the subject matter is legal, there may be a procedural error in an article that affects its validity.
I'm looking at an article that was written in the Municipal Association by Jonathan Cowell.
Yeah.
And he
does it
says, Select Board could seek a legal opinion that a vote on an article will have no legal effect. And that opinion could be shared with the meeting voters.
But that implies that the warrant would go forward and then council would get up and make a statement to the legislative body and say, this has no legal effect before you vote.
Then, yeah, I suppose so.
Does it clarify whether the select board has any purview to remove a warrant? Because that makes it sound like the warrant goes ahead and then there's a caveat given by town council.
It says that the board should err in favor of putting it on the ballot.
Right.
But I mean, ultimately, I'm thinking to myself, why are we putting things on the ballot that has no legal effect? Then let's just put statement A and statement C and
Right.
statement X.
Right.
You know,
Yep, I
just-
think to Karen's point, that it's the path of least resistance to allow it to go on, and, the voters brought it forward, or the 25 townspeople brought it forward, and to have town council make a statement that there's no legal utility to this warrant. But I don't know, that's how I'm interpreting what you read, is that it does make it forward to that day, and then council gives a statement before the vote occurs. And we could always give I don't know who I know Melissa Litchfield is the first name on here, but I don't know who's the official sponsor of the warrant.
Melissa and Mrs. Faria dropped it off today.
Okay, so we could even give them the opportunity to withdraw it if they feel that they would want to do that. Although, can we not,
You
because
can't
we've already
withdraw it.
closed?
They would have to vote to
We've
table
already
it at town
closed it,
meeting.
okay. So they have that option as well. After council speaks, if they choose to table it, they could do that.
I mean, I guess I don't know how people feel about at least consulting with, town council on.
Well, the council will review the entire warrant before, just to prepare for town meeting, but this will be included and she can give her opinion on it at that
Great,
time.
and she'll need to, because she'll need to be prepared to speak to it on the day of.
Yep.
Okay. And we don't have to vote on this, obviously, because there's no money, no appropriations. But I thank you for your comments as a lawyer. I think that's helpful. Anyone else on the board want to speak to this warrant? No? Okay.
In the last page of your packet is the draft of the report of the select board for the annual report. Does anybody want to make any amendments, additions?
When do you need this by?
Yeah.
Quickly?
Okay. I was just gonna say, because we're just seeing it today for the
Yeah.
first time,
But
so I
if
didn't
you
know. I
want
actually
to-
think it's quite good.
I can't send it to the publishers until after the budget hearing, so if you want to have a couple of days to look at it, you have that time, but I will need it back by the budget hearing on Monday.
Okay. I think it's really quite good. I just had a few little words I might add, and when we talked about the town tax rate decreasing, I thought it might be really helpful to put the percentage.
Okay.
Because like when I looked at that 49 cents, I'm not sure what to make of that, but I think if we, I think it was 9.8%.
Okay.
I think that might mean a little bit more to people.
I did email you a Word version, so if you.
Great, yeah, I just saw that before I came here tonight. Do folks want to take some time to read this now, or read it over the next like 24, 48 hours and send in some comments to Karen?
I read it quickly and
Yeah.
it seemed generally good.
She does a good job. She's good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, barring any major changes, I'm comfortable with just, if you have changes you wanna make and there is not time to run it by me or whatever, I'm good.
Okay.
Cause I do think it's
quite good,
acceptable
yeah.
as is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, Andy, are you okay with just kind of reading it over, sending in any changes suggested?
Yeah, I think that's,
Okay.
just give me 24 hours, so.
Okay, great. Anything else you have for us tonight?
The last thing is Ken Christensen was the town's, Transportation Advisory Committee through RPC. Ken Christensen was Brentwood's rep. He has decided that he would like to resign from that post, and the planning board is recommending Stephanie Kizza to take that seat.
That's a particular role, like a sub-role on RPC?
It is a sub-role, so they're the ones that deal with the 10-year plan.
Gotcha.
Did
Do
you
we
not get
need-
Mark Kennedy also? We had voted both Stephanie and Mark.
Jillian said just Stephanie.
Didn't we vote Mark also?
Is Mark an alternate?
Mark,
Do we need two people?
it's supposed to be two people.
Oh, it's supposed to be two. Oh, okay.
Mark is going to RPC, Stephanie's going to transportation.
To TAC.
Because that's,
Oh, so this particular
This is
role is
Steph-
transportation,
yes.
so
Oh,
that was
okay. Sorry,
specific
I
to
missed
Steph. Okay.
Okay.
And then Mark was the general representative from planning board?
that's correct.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote, or?
Yes, please. And it is a 2-year appointment.
And with elections coming up or seats changing, does that matter?
No.
It doesn't, it can just be any community
Yep.
townsperson, okay. Good. Anyone want to make a motion for Stephanie to become the transportation representative?
Yeah, moved.
Second.
All in favor, Andy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Russ?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Looks like, I think just I have to sign this.
Did you want to check on Mark with Jillian, or is it okay just to?
Well, I think that's a separate form, right? Because Stephanie was the RPC rep, and now she's gonna leave and do this, and
Right.
then Mark is gonna fill that seat. So I think
Exactly.
that's a separate appointment slip.
Do we need a separate vote for Mark to take that other role?
Yes, but I'll need that
We'll wait
application
until we have a
separate.
piece of paper.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Anything else you have for us?
Not for public session.
Okay. We will go around for committee updates and any other matters that come before the board, and we'll start with Andy.
So is it BudCon last night? We got the condensed warrant article passed with recommendations, so the
Wonderful.
revolving accounts will all be in one article. I believe there's $180,000 total.
Yep.
I don't remember what the,
It was 5 different
it was
CRFs.
5 different capital reserve funds.
Yep.
So if my mind is correct, the select board's budget and the budget committee's budget is equal.
That's what we like.
BudCom also saw 3 warrant articles from the school board. All were recommended, solar panel, IT hardware, and maintenance, special education. And then public hearing will be Monday at 7,
PRC? 6:30?
6:30?
6.
I think it's
I
the
know
regular
BudCom's
meeting
meeting
at
at
6.
6.
I think public meeting's at 6:30, and it's at the BRC?
Yes.
Perfect.
And snow date is Wednesday.
Okay.
But it's not gonna snow, I don't think.
It's not gonna snow.
And just to remind folks that those school warrants will be voted on at the school district meeting, which has been moved onto, I believe it's a Wednesday this year, which is March 6th. So for those interested in voting on the school,
Letty's shaking her head up and down, so yes.
yes. Wednesday, March 6th. It had been on, I think, a Friday night previously, but the thought was Wednesday might be easier for folks. So March 6th, put that on your calendar.
And the budget hearing does start at 6:30.
Great.
What time, lady?
What?
Do you know what time, March 6th?
6. 6 o'clock, yes.
The 6th at 6.
Did you let the supervisors of the checklist know of that date?
Do I know?
What, did somebody let them know?
You would have to ask the school clerk.
Aha, okay, we will figure that out. Other BudCom news?
No more BudCom news. Conservation will meet tomorrow instead of next week, just a change in the normal schedule, so.
Okay. All right, John?
I would like us to talk about the Mill Road traffic email that we received. I'm sure that there are people that have comments or thoughts. Does
Sure.
anyone, you want me to, I mean, I can launch into more of a wholesome explanation, but
Sure.
do we have a, I guess for the public knowledge, we received some information that there's an ongoing safety and road congestion issue related to the Mill Road construction area, or the construction happening off of Mill Road.
Do you want one of us?
And there are, what's that?
You're in and out, John, so I was just wondering if, I mean, I can take this up, but feel free to keep going.
Yeah, sorry. If you guys can't hear me, then maybe someone can.
No, we can hear you.
You can hear you now. You
Yeah.
just turned away from your mic. Right there you go.
Okay. So the construction area off of Mill Road is having doing some staging on Mill Road itself, causing some safety concerns and traffic congestion issues. And I just want to make sure that we raise this and bring it to the attention of the folks who can take some action on it, making sure that the project is not using the Mill Road itself for a staging area for their construction activities.
And Karen, I know you had responded to an email, so I don't know if you want to speak to the action that was taken.
So I received an email from a resident on Fellows about Mill Road last Thursday. I forwarded it to Kip Kaiser and Chief Ventura. I had also spoken with Wayne Robinson first thing that morning. He said that the damage to the road is not excessive. Any damage that is done to the road will be repaired by Falzoni, and it was our intention to repave Mill Road once a majority of the construction was completed anyhow. Falzoni will pay for any upgrades needed on the roadway, and I asked Kip further to make sure everything else was compliant with the approved plan and erosion control. So Kip was taking care of that. He has expressed no further concerns there. I had also forwarded that to Chief Ventura and asked them to arrange for directed patrols to ensure that there was no construction vehicles were not impeding traffic or emergency vehicles. He confirmed that they were not. I received an additional email this morning, which I also forwarded. The email I received this morning was specific to traffic. So I forwarded that to Chief Ventura also, because that one included photos. And they confirmed that they are doing extra directed patrols in that area. The pictures do not show a complete obstruction of the roadway. And that it appears they're just loading and unloading material. There's no complaints about accidents or detours. But they are keeping an eye on it to make sure that it is not impeding traffic or emergency vehicles.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else that you have, John?
Nothing else for me.
Russ?
So the new website, obviously on the communications committee side, the new website, so major kudos to the committee, to Karen, to folks in the town offices for working to get that up. What do you think? You feeling good?
Mostly, yes.
Yeah.
I think
It's a big change.
It looks great. I think it's a big change, but everyone's going with the flow
Yeah.
as much as we can. Letty and Steph have been here like every day, and they've been very accessible for whatever help that we have needed, so that's been great.
I love the calendar. I think the calendar is great. We were really missing it on the old website. I
Yeah.
just think it's great.
Yeah, great job. The Energy and Efficiency Committee has an opening, and I know that's on Facebook, the town Facebook page.
Yep.
Announced that applications will be taken, I believe, up until the 28th of this month.
That's
and-
for a full member, right?
Alternate member.
An alternate member.
Kristen took the full membership.
Oh, they got promoted up, right, okay, yep.
And then, does the Communications Committee also have an opening, or does that get,
They do not have an opening.
They do not.
Rec commission, no.
Rec
Rec
Board?
commission, that's
Rec
what we
Board
posted.
does, right?
Full members for rec.
Yep.
Is there a due date? I know that's not my board, but is there a due date? Just
We
to-
put the due date for that for February 23rd, so that
Okay.
that way Andy would have a couple of days to review them before the meeting on the 28th.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, as far as the ZBA goes, more on this later. I owe Doug Cowie, the chairman, a phone call, conversation. But, I have received some input from a resident that perhaps the ZBA is, allowing variances in some cases where maybe it's a bit too liberal of an interpretation, or however you want to put it nicely. So not strict enough, I guess. So I've looked into that. I had a conversation with Glenn Greenwood last week, I think it was. And Glenn's gonna get back to me with some more information. But out of a courtesy, I'd like to just have further conversation before I bring a suggestion to this board. But hopefully I'll do that within the next couple of weeks.
Paul, anything you have for us?
Yeah, so we granted, last time we had granted the conditional approval with regard to wetlands for the big project over by the castles, the Prescott project for moving their manufacturing facilities to Brentwood. And then last meeting, we did the final conditional approval. I mean, it'll be a long process because there are a number of federal permits that need to be obtained. I want to say it was 18 months, correct? Yes, 18 months for that conditional approval, and it'll probably be about that long until those conditions are met. The other, we did speak about the highway audit report and Route 125 and South Road. Dr. Aldred, the chair, wrote a letter, which it's short enough that I just want to read into the record. This is to DOT, William Lambert. Town of Brentwood Planning Board received a copy of the 2023 road safety audit for the intersection of 125 and South Road, prepared by Hoyle Tanner of DOT. On behalf of the board, I'm writing in support of the urgent need for safety improvements at the section of Route 125 and South Road. The intersection of 125 and South Road has been identified as a safety concern in a community survey conducted by the boards for the town's master plan. Residents identified the intersection as a community priority, citing accidents and fatalities. At the 2023 community meeting regarding the intersection, we heard from community members and even law enforcement that the intersection is dangerous and best avoided. Please also note a 2020 traffic accident access study completed for a proposed commercial development concluded that the intersection meets all of the volume related signal warrants utilizing 2019 volumes, which meant that independent of the project, a traffic signal is recommended to be installed at this location. While that project did not move forward, commercial property at the intersection is active on the market. Continued development along 125 can be expected to increase traffic volumes above the rate of population growth in Brentwood. Brentwood's annual meeting is March 16th. The board would like to provide an update on the status of the state's assessment and plans for the intersection, including any plans for a public meeting or other opportunities for public input on the road safety audit.
Thanks for that update. Do we know what the next step would be from the state's perspective or from DOT's perspective?
They haven't heard anything back since we've received the draft reports, but I can follow up.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what their next, like what their schedule or their next step would be.
I know they were taking input on their report, so then they needed to finalize their report.
Right.
And the hope would be to get this off of their 10-year plan and onto something with a much shorter time track. So that's the push and the idea to keep this in the public eye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just, on that note, it's related, although they're not the same. I mentioned a couple weeks ago it was probably right before we started the meeting, but without naming names, at that intersection when you're facing, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I did speak with that property owner.
I think there was a lighting issue.
Yeah,
A light issue.
and
Yeah.
that was actually mentioned at the planning board as well, because we do have a dark skies ordinance. I did, there's a security issue, of course, for that property owner on the corner there. I did speak with them and was given some assurance that they would do their best to angle those lights downward. It looked like when I went by there the other day that may have happened, but I haven't actually taken, and maybe I'll do it on the way home tonight, head down Crawley Falls to South Road to see if that has helped the situation.
Well, I appreciate you doing that, having that conversation, because I think that's, it's at least worth asking. But yeah, it's significant. If you're coming from this side of 125, you know how Crawley Falls is here and here before you get to 125. It's in your eyes before you even get to the first Crawley Falls. Then you get to that intersection. This is when it has to be pitch black. Then you have 2 to 3 spotlights while you're looking at headlights, trying to keep an eye on headlights coming down. So, yeah, I think it's a simple fix. You just aim them downwards, or they may have adjusted them a little bit. You might be right about that. I think it needs to happen more, but I'll leave that to someone else. I have pretty good vision, thankfully, but I don't know about other people. I think it is an issue. So anyway, thanks.
Thanks for addressing that.
I have one more thing for public comment.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Paul?
No.
Okay. Karen?
I just have one more thing. The fire department went on a call last week. The resident ended up being displaced from her home. It was like all hands on deck, and all of our departments went above and beyond. It was amazing to see. The fire chief got involved. He said, this woman is going to be displaced. What do? We found a place for her to stay. We could not find a place. She has a cat, and we couldn't find a place for the cat to go. So Jillian Benedicts took the cat home for the evening and took care of it until we could find a boarding house. Mitchell Animal Hospital fit us in the next morning so we could get rabies shots and get the cat boarded. Corporal Spitaleri took time out of his day to escort this woman to her hotel room to make sure that she got there safely, got settled in, because she's not familiar with directions. She doesn't have a cell phone or anything, so he tucked her in, made sure she was safe there, but it was really, every department was helpful to this person, and she is on her way. So I just wanted you to know that everybody worked really together on that one
Great.
call.
Thanks for pointing that out. A lot of times those things happen behind the scenes and people don't know about all the hard work that gets done by all our departments. Thank you. That was a nice shout out. Good. Updates from me. I already gave the update that the school district meeting is on Wednesday, March 6th. So please plan on attending and supporting the school budget and those 3 warrants that were mentioned. A couple things I wanted to remind people of in terms of upcoming elections. On February 20th, at our meeting here, we are going to have the SB2 hearing, which is required by statute whenever SB2 is going to be on the warrant. So that is happening February 20th. After that SB2 hearing, immediately after, at that same meeting, Steve Dawson is coming to give a presentation on behalf of the Communications Committee to help voters understand the difference between the budget and the tax rate, which don't always exactly align, because that is a source of confusion for taxpayers. So for anybody interested in either learning more about SB2 or learning more about budget versus tax rate, please plan on coming on February 20th. I also wanted to, Karen, just ask for our town meeting. Last year we provided some babysitting. Have any steps been started to be able to provide that again this year?
Yes, Andrew
thought so.
Gray, the
Okay.
rec department is going to be putting forward babysitting. They are
Great.
having it staffed from 8:30 until 12:30.
Okay, all right. So we will have some babysitting there, which is great. The other thing that we're gonna do, I spoke with Daphne after some community members had asked me if we are going to have secret ballot votes, if there is a way we could help make that go faster. And I have voluntold my husband to make us some additional voting boxes, which he has agreed to do. So we will have, right now we have 2 voting boxes in the town. We are going to increase that to 4. So if we do have secret ballot votes, we will be able to have 4 lines and process that much quicker. That will also speed us up on SB2, which needs to be a paper ballot. So this board is really committed to trying to not have a 7.5-hour town meeting again. And those are just a few updates for the community on things that we are doing there. I think that was all that I had. And we have legal. Becky, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick point, if rec is providing their babysitting, have you thought about rides for seniors? That's always a concern, that there are seniors who may not be able to drive to town meeting. Would they be willing to offer that? I know they have a van.
They do have a van. I would have to talk to Andy about it because he's going to be running the babysitting himself.
Well,
So,
if you could check if someone would be willing to help seniors, because they do offer a senior luncheon program, it would be a way to expand what they do for seniors.
Certainly, if any townspeople want to offer up their ability to give rides
Some
too.
sort of publicity, if you
Yep.
wanted to put on the website,
Yep.
that would be great.
Okay. Any other actions before we go into a brief non-public for legal? Okay, I will take a motion to go into non-public for 91A legal.
Moved.
Second?
We'll take a vote. Andy?
Aye.
John? Russ?
Aye.
Paul? And I'm an aye, so we'll go into non-public for legal.
hey, Paul.